Mask mandates are back, and it could be coming back to our country as well. Well, folks, it might be time to dust off those masks, as there are now talks about bringing the mask mandates back in Canada. And I'm guessing that our country isn't that far away with all the talks from the White House regarding new jabs.
What brought me out here is my basic moral outrage.
Outrage over masking protocols that were dropped in BC in April. A Do Not Harm BC protest was held outside the office of Adrian Dix, BC's health minister, calling on the provincial government to reinstate mandatory masking in healthcare settings.
I have many patients who are extremely medically vulnerable, having to decide, should I go into the hospital or not to receive care, knowing that I'm now going to also have to be exposed potentially to getting a virus, which may then very significantly impact my health.
Kaylee Jameson, who suffers from long COVID, is among those who are medically vulnerable.
I'm your typical young person that was previously healthy before getting infected, and I got one mild infection of Omicron back in December 2021, and now I have long COVID, and it's been over 20 months, and I've had to leave my 2 jobs. I used to be a master's student at SFU. My entire life has completely changed. I can no longer exercise.
The BC government says in most healthcare settings, wearing a mask is a personal choice and not mandated. However, in some cases, you must wear a mask when requested by a healthcare professional.
Now, I've covered masks a lot right here on the channel, right? You guys are aware of that. And I've even shown data that shows that they don't necessarily help. In fact, they've instead set us back. I mean, even Dr. Anthony Fauci, he said that they don't work in the way that we think they do.
People should not be walking around with masks.
You're sure of it? Because people are listening really closely to this.
Right now, people should not be walking. There's no reason to be walking around with a mask. When you're in the middle of an outbreak, wearing a mask might make people feel a little bit better, and it might even block a droplet, but it's not providing the perfect protection that people think that it is. And often there are unintended consequences. People keep fiddling with the mask and they keep touching their face.
And can you get some schmutz sort of staying inside there?
Of course. But when you think masks, you should think of healthcare providers needing them and people who are ill. Right now, people should not be walking. There's no reason to be walking around with a mask.
So I guess that raises the question if it's something that we actually need to be bringing back, if it didn't work, what are we doing trying to bring it back? But don't get me wrong, I just want to clarify. If you want to wear a mask, that's not my decision to make for you. That's your call. You should have the right to do what you want to do with your body. But as data continues to show us, there's no solid proof to say that masks prevent the transmission of certain viruses. Heck, even vaccinations can't necessarily do that. And before we even dig any deeper into the jab, make sure you drop a like for the video, because I'm about to share a story that is so insane that I'm pretty sure that the comments are just going to blow up because of it. And while you're at it, make sure you subscribe as well, because y'all know I deliver the truth 24/7. All right, so what's the story that's supposed to rile up everybody here in the community, right? Well, imagine being unvaccinated, all right? You decided not to get jabbed because you had a natural immunity to the virus, but then there came a situation where you needed to get an organ transplant. So that's life and death, right? So how would you feel if you go to the hospital and you tick that box that you were never jabbed? Now remember, you never got the virus, but once you tick that box, they come back and tell you, sorry, it shows here that you're unvaccinated. Well, unfortunately, we can't give you an organ transplant. Hold off on those comments, folks, because it gets worse. So her name's Sheila Annette Lewis, and this happened in, again, Canada. Who would have freaking guessed, huh? So she was diagnosed with a terminal illness all the way back in 2018 and was on the transplant list by 2020. However, this is just a slice of the insanity that's going on over there. So Alberta doctors said that to be eligible for a transplant, y'all need to get jabbed. So what did they do? Did they still try and save this woman's life? Did they realize that the vaccines didn't go through normal clinical trials and said that a transplant can happen without one? No, of course not. They took her out of the transplant list.
If anything I need for personals or anything at all, paying a bill, like my light bills, because I have 4 machines, 2 are pumping oxygen and 2 are filling my tank full of oxygen. So my light bill is like $1,000 a month. And that isn't easy to swing when you have 0 income.
What can I do to help make this better for her? What can I do in my kind of own power to help her? And so I thought, I'm going to reach out to her and see if I can, just at least offer the support and see if there's anything I can do. With that, we started chatting, and I actually wrote a letter to the Premier saying how, this is it's a horrible thing that's going on, and nobody should have to deal with that or go through that. And she deserves so much better, and she deserves to have that organ transplant, regardless of if she decides to get the vaccine or not.
Like, I have no clue who this woman is, but in the same way that people have a right to decide what they want to put in their bodies, what they want to do with their bodies, I think that it's only fair that we also have a right to decide what we want to keep out. What do you think? Lewis actually felt pressured to take something she didn't need. Now, like I said, her natural immunity was so strong that she never even got the virus within the health crisis. But you know what happened recently? Unfortunately, she died. Man, I always tend to know what to say, but what do you say to that? They chose to have this woman die rather than provide her with a transplant that she desperately needed and deserved. But do you know what the reasoning as to why the jab is so important for those who may be getting a transplant? Well, according to these centers, transplant recipients are at an increased risk of C19 illness and death. What the actual I'm sorry guys, I don't mean to get carried away here, but seriously, having a new organ makes you more susceptible to a viral infection? Wait, so they'd rather that people just die? I mean, shouldn't we choose life every single time? There's no problem dying if you're jabbed then. Is that the reasoning? Like, this woman had natural immunity to the virus and decided independently not to get jabbed, which, let's be honest here, this is her right. But then they turn face and say that she can't have a life-saving procedure because of it. And what makes this story that much more concerning for me is that lawmakers in their country, they don't give a crap. They could care less about this woman's life. In fact, one of them practically said that she deserved to die because she spread disinformation. What? Like, what kind of person actually says that? Well, it was Canadian MP Charlie Angus of Canada's New Democratic Party. Shocker. And y'all know he for sure deleted his tweet about it. So let me go ahead and paraphrase here, but essentially Angus said that this woman, didn't even name her, died fighting for disinformation, anti-vaccine BS and conspiracy. Like, come on, somebody just died and this is how you respond? How insensitive are you? Like, how out of touch are you with the citizens of your own country? He should have just tweeted that this woman deserved to die because she didn't want to go through with an experimental drug. You see, we have to see all of this and expect, at least by a little bit, that it's not impossible that it makes its way here, especially with mandates. I mean, the president's already planning to use your taxpayer money to get more jabs out for this new variant. But I gotta ask though, are you worried that this will happen here soon? And you know what surprised me about that rally in Canada? It wasn't as peaceful as I thought it would be. Because, like I always say, you're free to your own opinions. All I do here is provide the data of what's actually happening and provide you guys with receipts of what these people said, which is why I don't really like the idea of forcing anyone to do anything that they're not comfortable to do. You know what? Because like I always say, you're free to your own opinions. All I do here is provide the data of what's actually happening and provide you guys with receipts of what these people said, which is why I don't really like the idea of forcing anyone to do anything that they're not comfortable with. But look at what happens when someone who has a different opinion shows up to the rally with a sign of his own.
I've never worn a mask, and I will continue to not wear a mask because I think it's still legal.
The guy you just saw was actually in a much longer struggle than that. They literally physically assaulted this man, but that footage seems to be missing from the internet. Wonder why. But what do you guys think of all this? Should mandates be brought back? Or should our rights and opinions, which are based on actual data, be respected? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Before I go, I just want to thank you guys for hanging out. Thanks for dropping a like for the video. Thank you guys for subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.